session with the teachers of the recent In the Footsteps of Thich Nhat Hanh Summit. My name is Denise Nguyen, and I am the Executive Director of the Thich Nhat Hanh Foundation, whose mission is to support and continue the teachings and practices of our dear teacher, Thay. We are so delighted that you're joining us today. Thank you. Before we get started with the questions and answers, in the Plum Village tradition, we like to begin with listening to 3 sounds of the bell. When we hear a bell, we stop whatever we are doing and bring our awareness back to our in-breath and out-breath. During these tumultuous times, our breathing is a source of solidity that we can take refuge in. It's always there for us like a faithful friend. So whenever we feel anxiety or fear or immersed in a painful emotion, we can return to our breathing to collect and anchor our mind. So everyone, get yourself in a comfortable seated position. You might like to say to yourself, breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Breathing in, I am breathing in for all those who are having trouble breathing right now. Breathing out, I am breathing out love and care for all those who are afflicted. So, dear friends, I wanted to introduce our wonderful teachers who are here today to take your questions. First, we have Dr. Peggy Rowe Ward, who met Thay in 1991 and later was ordained by him as a Dharma teacher in 2001. Peggy currently serves as a faculty member on the Mindful Leadership Program at Atlantic University and is the co-author of 2 books, Making Friends with Time and Love's Garden, A Guide to Mindful Relationships. And she has the sweetest dog named Charlie. Thank you, Peggy, for joining us today. Next, we have Brother Phap Luu, which means Brother Dharma Stream. Our brother grew up in Connecticut before becoming a monk in 2003, and then was ordained as a Dharma teacher in 2011 by Thay. Among the Plum Village programs, he's been active in the Wake Up movement for young people and in the Wake Up Schools initiative, which brings Thay's mindfulness practices into schools. And he helped start the Happy Farm program at Plum Village Monastery, which combines organic farming, ecology, and a community doing it together in mindfulness. Thank you, Brother Phap Luu, for joining us. And last but definitely not least, we have Anh-Huong Nguyen, who was among the first students to be ordained as a Dharma teacher by Thay in 1992. She's our eldest sister here today in terms of her years practicing in Thay's tradition, and she's been leading mindfulness retreats for more than 30 years. She is a principal teacher at the Mindfulness Practice Center of Fairfax in Northern Virginia. And Anh-Huong is the author of Opening the Heart of Compassion, a guided meditation CD, and co-author with Thay on Walking Meditation, a multimedia manual on mindful walking. Thank you, Anh-Huong. And we also have three wonderful helpers today. We have Sister True Dedication, Brother Pham Han, and Nicole Kramer, who are helping push the buttons and pull the levers to keep this Q&A train running. So thank you to them so much. So a little bit about the technicalities of our Q&A today. If you would like to submit a question to our teachers, if you see on the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see an icon that says Q&A. So if you click on that and you can type in your question there. Now, unfortunately, we can't answer everyone's questions, but if your question is picked, you'll be able to ask it live on camera. And this will help our teachers see the person behind each question so we can all have a sense of community and togetherness. But if you would prefer not to be on camera when you submit a question, there is a button that you can click that says anonymous. Now we know a good question can benefit many people, so we really encourage people to share questions that come from your heart, that have to do with your happiness or suffering or practice, rather than theoretical or philosophical questions. And we know a good question doesn't have to be long, but rather it's concise, and this will help us make sure there is time to answer as many of your questions as possible. But before we begin all this, we actually have some questions for you, so we can get to know you a bit more. So we'll be launching some poll questions. So you can take the time to answer them. Just a little bit longer. Okay, I think so. Looks like we have a lot of people from North America today. 70% of you are joining from North America and 21% coming from Europe. And we have people from Asia and Africa and South America. How wonderful. We have a global family here today. And it looks like 40% of you have been on a retreat at one of our monasteries before, and 60% haven't. So once this outbreak is over, we look forward to welcoming you to one of our monasteries. And where did you first hear about Thich Nhat Hanh? It looks like most of you read a book or audiobook from Tay, or heard about Tay from a friend or family member. Interesting, really lovely. And then the last question, are you a member of a Sangha in the Plum Village tradition? 41% of you, yes, and 59% of you, no. So wonderful. Thank you so much for letting us get to know you a little bit more. We really appreciate that. Okay, so We are actually ready to start with the Q&A, but before we do that, we'll start with hearing another sound of the bell to ground ourselves. So Nicole, if you can help with the sound of the bell. Okay, wonderful. So we'll go ahead and start with our first question. We have someone. Sorry, 1 second. Sorry, everyone, as we work through the technicalities of this. This is our first session. Thank you for having patience and breathing with us. So I think we'll start with Charlesy. There you are.
I see you.
Okay. Hello. Hi, everybody. Hi. So I'm Charles Lee and go by, the pronouns he, him, and I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And my question is about reactivity. When I came to this practice about a year and a half ago, one thing that spoke to me a lot was being less reactive and more responsive. And I've had an easier time of doing that at work and with friends and colleagues, but with family, I find it extremely difficult. And I sense I haven't had much of a change in my reactivity to my family. So I was wondering if there were ways to, to improve that.
Dear Charles, thank you for your question. I'm Peggy and I'm in Taos right now, just a few hours north of you on the land of the Tiwa people, and I use she and her and hers. I want to first of all say, nice noticing with your mindfulness practice. That's really great that you've been able to tune into the times and the places, the whens and the wheres. That's really strong lead in to continuing to work with that situation of reactivity. Number two, your intention and your aspiration is there to improve in this area. And this is also very powerful, what you're already doing. And then I'd like to say, this is so normal. It's always more difficult with those that are closest to us. It's always that way. And some of that has to do with the vulnerability, that we're more comfortable with being more vulnerable with people that are closest to us. So this is a sign of more vulnerability and intimacy. And it's a sign we've got some homework, right? That we want to do better. Because it's hard when we contribute suffering to those that we love. So the first couple of things is to really appreciate yourself for how you're doing, to notice these things, to figure out how you can lean into the reactivity a little bit more, to get to notice it more. What I find that helps me is to be in my feet and my body, and to try to take a couple of breaths, and even to name that with my loved ones. I'm noticing I'm getting upset or irritated, and I just want to take a few steps away to see what I can discover is what's going on. Because that's the thing, we don't know what's going on, do we? We just know we've got this energy of reactivity. And so we befriend ourselves with that. We send loving kindness to ourselves. We we offer ourselves our best love to know, ouch, I've got some suffering up, and I'm committed to not letting it spill out. So that's what I just wanted to say, is it slow down, take a breath, take 2 breaths. You can name it without any kind of blame to your loved one, to say, boy, I'm just a little bit more emotional right now, or reactive, or I've got irritation up. I'm finding myself these days in the coronavirus that there's just more toxic energy everywhere. And I am part of everywhere. I am experiencing interbeing with this virus. And I find that I have more reactivity than I'm used to. I find that I've just had to take more walks. And we've got a beautiful sunny day in New Mexico. I see that beautiful blue sky where you are. This is also wonderful practice, just to look at the blue sky and to know that the feelings will come and go like the clouds in that beautiful sky that we have here in New Mexico. Feet on the ground, eyes up at the sky, honoring the blue sky that is also in you. So just keep practicing. You're on the way. I think you're really close to having some more discoveries on how you can just send more kindness to that energy of irritation. Thank you for your great question, and take care of yourself and your family. So nice to meet you this way.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Peggy. Now for our next question. I think it is Don Coons. Don, would you be okay asking your question live? I think Don's on mute. Here we are. Hi, Don.
It's not Don. Wait a minute. Okay, that's me. Okay, sorry. When I watch the news on TV, I get angry, I get agitated, I get fearful. I've meditated for a number of years, but I find myself, you know, in the moment I kind of just forget, and I lose it, and I react. And I'm looking for a sense of equanimity. And could you help me how I could work on that?
Yeah. Thank you for your question. Can everyone hear okay? Yeah. So it helps me in my meditation practice to recognize the ways I'm nourishing my consciousness, nourishing my mind and my body. So we say in our tradition, we talk about 4 kinds of nutriments. There's edible food, sense impressions, volition, and consciousness. And part of my daily nourishment is to find things that are beautiful, like a flower, like the bee, or even just a fly that's moving around my room. It's such a wonder of life. When I give my attention to those kind of sense impressions, then I feel joy, I feel alive, I feel grateful. I see the ecosystem that is a wonder, all the bacteria in my gut. I can see that this moment is full of good conditions for happiness. And that also helps me to see that when I get on the internet and I read a newspaper, when I get on the television and just watch what's being presented there, that is also a source of nourishment. And I pay attention to how I'm consuming, just like when I'm having a meal. Is this taste good? Is this this sense impression leading to my peace and calm and happiness, or is it watering the seeds of anger and fear? If we look deeply into the present moment, there are always things that can water the seeds of anger in our consciousness. So I know that right now people are being tortured, people are in situations of injustice, the earth is being exploited, there's a good possibility that we won't have a beautiful planet to give to our children and their grandchildren. And but knowing that, I have a kind of the wonderful organizer of the COP21, or was it in Paris, the COP15, Christiana Figueres, she called it a stubborn optimism. So I'm determined to be joyful. I'm determined to cultivate joy in my life and to see the beautiful things and not get carried away by the consumption of these kinds of nutriments, like what can be going, it's like an IV drip right into our mind sometimes when we turn on the television. So we have to be careful. And it doesn't mean we're not in touch with people who are suffering. There's a way we can watch the news, we can read the news without watering seeds of anger and fear. But that requires some understanding of how this nutriment happens through our eye, through our ear, our nose, and so forth. So we know that we can get that information, but we can breathe in and out and get in touch with all the people who are not being mentioned in this news article, who are trying to help transform the situation. The kind of bodhisattvas that are out there who are always, just like we know now, all these doctors, nurses, health professionals are really putting their life on the line to help just one other person have a little bit less fear when they're dying, or help them to overcome the virus. So we know that's going on too, but that's not necessarily on the news. What we read is just the graphs of how high the death tolls are going. So pay attention to how nutriment affects your state of mind and nourish joy. Make a choice to nourish joy. That is a part of understanding our mind. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Don. We have a next question from Marianne.
Oh, thank you. Oops.
You're on. You're good.
I have been practicing a long time in Thai's tradition, and it has really helped me through this time to stay grounded, to keep my feet on the ground, like Peggy was saying, and to look at the sky, and I take daily walks. However, I'm a very sensitive person. For those who have heard it, the highly sensitive person or empath, which I think a lot of us who practice in Thai's tradition are. Our hearts are overflowing with compassion for others. And right now, I just have really focused my meditations on a very vivid picture of me putting my arms around the earth because we are all suffering, and resting my cheek on it. However, it's almost too much as far as being overwhelming. For me, and I've always struggled with this in my life too, I'm a healthcare professional, to open my heart, but how much to open it where I don't lose myself and struggle myself with depression and anxiety. So to the panel, if you have any advice how I can continue to hold the world in a compassionate hug and continue to put out love and healing wishes and kindness to the world that is suffering so much, without losing myself and keeping my seeds of compassion and love and positivity, like Brother Phap was saying, watered. Thank you so much.
Thank you, dear Sister Marianne, for your question. It's a very beautiful energy that I could feel as I listened to your question. When we suffer, the whole world suffers. When we can take a deep breath, we can feel relaxed, at ease, and the door of our heart begins to open a bit wider. We know that the whole world is doing that at the same time. In my meditation lately, a lot of times I visualize that I am a cell in the lungs of one human body. And I know that there are other lung cells that are not strong, that are sick, that are wilting. But I remember that this lung cell is still healthy. And when I'm able to settle down on my cushion, on my chair, lay down on the floor, on the earth, and breathe with Mother Earth and all lives to nourish the healthy cell I am in the big human lungs, I can feel that love, that compassion, that safety within me. And at that point, I no longer feel like this is my joy, this is my compassion, but I could feel I was breathing with the earth and with all of my siblings, children of the earth. And not just human siblings, but also the animals, the plants, the flowers, the rocks, the oceans, the mountains. I could feel that heartbeat. A lot of times in my meditation lately, every time I breathe in, I felt like a very small baby, and I allow myself to be nourished by the in-breath that contains. Here we have spring. We are in spring in Northern Virginia. So I allow that breath of the spring, the beauty of the spring, and the healing energy of Mother Nature to flow into me as I breathe in the light, the warmth of the sun, and I could feel that nourishment so deeply. And when I breathe out, I feel deeply satisfied. And in my meditation with those images, I can feel so nourished. I can feel being deeply held in the arms of life of Mother Earth. And in that moment, everyone, well and sick, all living beings were breathing with me together. And as a result of that image, that visualization and meditation, I feel stronger, more solid, more at ease and happier.
And sometimes I watch the rise and fall of my belly, like I'm watching the waves on the surface of the ocean. And I lie down many times a day. Since we're practicing social distancing, I take every chance to lie down right on the floor of my meditation corner. And I follow my breathing, and my body becomes a beach, become the soft, fresh sand that being washed over and over again, being kissed, being held so tenderly by the waves. And those meditations have helped me tremendously through this very challenging time. And never in my meditation that I don't begin with setting the intention to breathe with everyone, to be sick, to be well with all lives. And it's always wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. Let us take a moment and go back to our breaths and listen to a sound of the bell. So we're going to take an anonymous question right now. The question is, loneliness can be debilitating, and in this world of separation, it is difficult to feel a part of the whole. What steps can we take to feel reconnected with each other and the world? Similar to that, how do we still live in a community where there is a challenge like social distance?
There, I'm unmuted. This is Peggy bowing in. I have to take a breath with the tender experience of loneliness. This is something that is in each of us, this quality, this very human, very tender, very vulnerable feeling. And we know it in our animal friends too. I know it in my dog. If I've been away very long, I'll notice it in his demeanor. It's a part of being alive, I believe, is to know this quality. So how do we sit with it? I think that's the key. And it's not easy to sit with because it's so tender and vulnerable. So what I do, I really got in touch with this when I went to grad school in another country, and nobody came with me, and I didn't know the language, and that's probably the strongest time I had with practicing with loneliness. And I had to do some befriending with myself. I had to slow down to just sit with myself and be very, very kind. Our practice of loving kindness, our very sweet, tender heart is what we need to help us hold this so that we can get through that loneliness that's on the surface to aloneness. Aloneness is different. We're born alone, we die alone. Aloneness is a part of our spiritual journey. So if we can put our tender arms around our loneliness and be kind and say, yeah, that's not easy to feel this loneliness. And I can't even do the normal things that I know to do about it. I can't make a date with my friends or kids or parents. Right now, my mom's really suffering because she's in an elder facility and they're in total quarantine and they can't see any visitors. And she had an eye appointment, so now she's in total quarantine in her room. And there's a lot of people right now that are experiencing this. We don't start by noticing that. We start by noticing our own loneliness and being kind. And then perhaps we can notice that we're really not alone. There's a lot of people and beings in this same boat with us. And this can help us to really help to hold that bigger loneliness, to know, oh, I'm really not alone. And when I practice, I bring in my ancestors, my Grandma Dunn, my spiritual ancestors. Ty sits with, my teacher sits with me a lot. They're always willing to come forward and sit with me. And they're always kind, and nobody ever judges me when I have this experience. Right now, I'm feeling it in myself as I talk about it. It's very normal. It's very human. It's a very, very sweet thing. So that's what I suggest, is just being kind to yourself with however you can. And then whatever helps you nourish that kindness to get in touch with how we are connected with life, how, whether it's the tree outside. I know I'm enjoying long walks. I'm lucky that there's only 8,000 people in Taos. And so it's easy to get out and walk and feel my inner connection with the rocks and the trees and the birds, and to watch the birds at my feet in the morning, to feel that connection with them, to feel that connection that never leaves me, that I have with my mom, my teachers, my friends. So we move out through those layers to really know that we are interconnected, we are in the same boat, we are supported, and it never, ever can leave us. We never can lose this connection that we have. So part of our practice is to dig our faith roots really deep. We are connected, but we start by honoring our humanness with really tender kindness, because it's such a tender quality of our hearts. So.
Thank you, Peggy, and thank you to the person who submitted the question. Part of the Plum Village tradition with the question and answer is we do a sound of the bell after each question, and I got away from that at the beginning. So let's hear another. Enjoy coming back to our breathing and touching our breath and hearing a sound of the bell before the next question. We have a question from Rachel. Hi, Rachel.
Dear Ty, dear Sangha, I'm Rachel in Santa Barbara, California, and I am a bit of a reluctant Buddhist. One of the things that I learned initially from my initial joining of a Sangha was to go back to my, one of the things that Thai teaches is to go back to your root religion, which for me was Christianity. And I've since studied Christianity and learned a lot more about that actually through Buddhism. And at this point, my normal life, I seem to have trouble fitting in mindfulness. And now in isolation, because I'm alone, but not lonely because I've actually been wishing for a time like this for a really long time. And I have 2 cats that I can talk to who are very responsive, and lots of wonderful plants and places to walk. I feel very fortunate. And I have a lot of meditation groups, different traditions and webinars and different things. Last night I had dinner, I had a Passover dinner with a Jewish friend online. And so my question is, I'm interested in the monks and the nuns' regular sort of schedule. I've been on, many, many retreats, and I understand how the retreat schedules, and I really enjoyed this Lion's Roar presentation because I could fit my own 5-day retreat and work it in around, just with that. I had complete time to just do that. And now I need to fit in, hours of working, or maybe not that much, and time to plan and that kind of thing. And so I wonder, what kind of, is there like a schedule that the monks and nuns always? I think, yeah.
Hi, Rachel. Can you hear okay? So it sounds like you're having fun. That's wonderful. I think that's the right attitude to bring to this situation of isolation, to use it to come back to ourselves. I know I've been doing it, and I see my brothers around me here in Plum Village as well, practicing more deeply, recognizing the fragility of life and the unknowing of the future. And so we really have to go into impermanence. We really have to just look and see, wow, there could just be this moment. We don't know what will happen next. The schedule helps with that. So we do have a schedule. We get up at, I usually get up around 5 in the morning, and then we sit at 6 with the community. We're a little bit pared down, so we usually do maybe some touching the earth or chanting. Even the monk will do a morning chant, but we've just done it in silence for the past week or so. And then we'll have breakfast together in silence. And then the day starts to unfold. Maybe we'll have tea together, and we have like 9:30, we'll have classes. So I'm teaching a class for aspirant novice monks who are here. We have, I think, 7. And then we would have walking meditation as a community for an hour before lunch. And then we'll have a noble nap, we call it. So it's nice to lay down after lunch. Just practice total relaxation. You may fall asleep or not fall asleep. And then in the afternoon, do some kind of working, get out and see around the house or in the apartment, see, can I, maybe that corner, like I haven't really cleaned it well. See if you go over there and just really clean it. I just heard from a German brother, that a lot of people he knows, the trash, the dumps in Germany are filling up because people are suddenly home and they're doing all this work around their house that they haven't done before. So that can be a source of joy. You don't have to, you just do it for an hour. That's something I like to do. And then we'll have some exercise, so going for a walk, and then dinner. Usually I don't have dinner, but we have dinner, it's optional. And then an evening sitting meditation. So that's our daily schedule. And around 9:30 or 10, we have what we call noble silence. So we quiet our mind as well as our speech and just come back to ourselves. We ready ourselves for sleep. And that schedule is a product of a collective consciousness. So we look at it about every quarter of the year, like spring, summer, fall. The whole community sits down and says, well, do we want to move something? Do we want to add more sitting or less sitting? Do we need more, like maybe we need 2 lazy days? last week the abbot said we had 3 lazy days, just because he was aware of the energy of the community and said, okay, we've been absorbing a lot of painful and suffering energy from people around the world regarding the pandemic. So let's just take 3 lazy days. And so the brothers and it was just right, So we also have a community eye that's looking and seeing and adjusting. So it's good to have a schedule, but it's good to have flexibility, not to be too rigid. The schedule should be there to bring us joy, to nourish our joy. And if you notice that following a schedule is making you suffer, then you look again. But I really feel it helps me, because it's like a mirror to my mind. Because that sitting meditation session, that silent breakfast, that class, or that walking meditation comes regularly at the same time every day. But the emotions that I'm experiencing can be quite different depending on what I've been consuming through the news, or maybe I'm reflecting on a relationship where there's some suffering, and so that's bringing up some pain. And that wasn't there yesterday. I had a wonderful walking meditation yesterday, but today that suffering is there. And so by keeping the schedule consistent, it's like a mirror. You come and look at the mirror and you say, oh wait, there's something there on my face. But you're looking inside yourself. And then you can invite mindfulness up to embrace that and see, how can I embrace this suffering in this relationship with my step, with my breathing. So in that way, a schedule is very helpful. And we should make sure you have time to just enjoy, to relax in the schedule. That's something that's a part of the collective wisdom of Plum Village. We have 4 aspects of our monastic life. So we have practice and the study to go deeper into our practice. We have work, and we have play. So in many traditions, they have the first 3, but they don't have the 4th one. And so Thai was very insistent that we also have play. And so I like to play with my schedule, but keep with it, for at least a week or 2 weeks, and then adjust. So you have this kind of ebb and flow of being with the schedule. Because if you're always just changing, it creates habits in our mind. So it's good to keep with it for a week or 2 and try different things, and then adjust and see, just be really in tune with your body and see how it feels. Thank you for sharing your practice in your apartment. I feel there, like I'm enjoying it there with you.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Brother Phap Luu. Let's enjoy a sound of the bell. Dear friends, we have a question from Lee. And the question is, I am isolating alone for the last month. As sure as remote medicine can tell me I have the virus, I am breathless and heavy-chested. I can't go outside. I am extremely exhausted. Looking after my basic physical needs is very difficult. I am also worried for my loved ones at this time. Thank you for any advice you can give for managing everything that Lee is going through.
Thank you, dear friend, for opening your heart to us. I say us because I'm feeling that all of us are sitting together in one big circle in this moment. And here right now in Virginia, we have plenty of sunshine and many, many young leaves, beautiful green. They're singing, dancing in the sun, the afternoon sun. And the flowers are blooming. I feel that we are breathing together in this circle. And you are opening your heart to life. We are opening our heart to life. To you, you to us. And that is a real gift. This moment is a gift. That we are there for one another. And our dear Thầy said more than once, many times, the best gift that we can offer to ourselves and to those around us is our true presence. And thanks to our practice, although it's called Q&A session, but I've been enjoying my breathing so deeply, so deliciously of our being together. It's hard to feel the vulnerability in us. It's even harder to let that vulnerability exposed. And for me, my Sangha, my friends on the path, become so real, and I can feel so deeply connected to each one of them because all of us in the Sangha are willing to be vulnerable to one another. And that's a real gift. And because of that, as soon as we learn about social distancing, we moved all our Sangha activities to online Sangha time. So in our Sangha, we can share that every morning we have sitting meditation, our time together. I see that as the time we are together. So sitting meditation is just a way to describe it. So every morning from Tuesday until Friday, we go online between 7 and 8. We have a little guided meditation and then a little time just to enjoy sitting quietly together. We have a little mindful walking, slow walking, one breath, one step, and a little mindful movements. And then we sit together quietly. And if someone would like to place what is so alive in their hearts in words, they can do that. And we feel that we are being held in the safe and loving warm cradle of our circle, so-called virtual circle. And then we usually had a day of mindfulness, a day of being together at our Sangha once a month. But now every Saturday, we have a practice session together, which starts from 9 and it goes until 2. We lie down together as babies and our breaths come together like a silk, soft, safe blanket that's keeping all these babies warm and safe and comfortable. And we all feel so much nourishment by that. And then we do a little gentle movements, mindful movements to help us stay in our body. Then we listen to a little talk. And then we share a mindful lunch together online. So online, seeing one another's face on the screen are like bell of mindfulness to remind us that social distancing cannot separate us. We're still together. We're still sticking to one another. And the practice of mindful breathing, mindful walking, mindful eating really collects us and unites us. And we're stronger as a Sangha more than ever before. And the good news is that our Sangha, people who are new to this practice can come to join our sessions. People don't have to have any experience in their practice in order to be a part of our circle. So I want to share that. So to remind us that we still come together as Sangha in this time, and to know that we're still breathing as one body, feeling things that arise in us as one body, one heart, one breath, with the energy of mindfulness. And when we cannot smile, we see that our Sangha, brothers and sisters, our friends on the path, are smiling for us. When the tears in us become frozen, we can't cry, then our Sangha friends cry, they cry for us. And that is a wonderful blessing, the best gift we can have at this time through the practice of mindfulness. And several people share with us that for many years they came to the Sangha, their families, their homes, they cannot connect with their homes and their loved ones in their family. And now with the practice online, the Sangha online, they can really bring the practice home and the Sangha at home. So the Sangha now at home, and they feel more connected with their home, the loved ones at home, the furniture, the floor, the walls, and all the things at home more deeply than ever before. So we want to share that with you so that you can take the gift of Sangha online and join us online as a big practicing body that is the best gift that our dear Thầy has given us, the gift of a Sangha. Thank you.
Thank you, Anh-Huong, and dearly we're holding you in our hearts, and we hope if you're feeling breathless that you seek, if you're able to seek some assistance from a healthcare provider, and yeah, we will keep holding your hearts, but if you keep feeling out of breath, that you'll get some medical attention. Thank you so much, Lee, and thank you, Anh-Huong. We have time for a few more questions. So the next is Ioka. Thank you for joining us. And yes, if you can ask your question, and yeah, just a few more questions. So if you can keep the questions short, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Dear Thai, dear Sangha, thank you for holding this Q&A. My question is how to balance autonomous action towards social justice with turning inward towards self-nourishment, and how to identify what is turning inwards towards self-nourishment and what is disassociated during this time. Thank you.
Can we have a bell, please? Thank you. Is that Ioka? Am I pronouncing your name right? And I'm going to move because the refrigerator just started talking. So I'm going to move. Okay. Maybe I won't have the refrigerator. What a great question. What a great question. But you need to know there's no more revolutionary act than meditation and coming home. Larry and I work with different departments at universities, in particular, Black studies, women's studies, and queer studies. And there's a text we used, mindfulness as an anti-oppression strategy. And we, in these classes, we work with social activists and social justice workers, just like yourself. And many of our people in our tradition, many of our Dharma teachers, our order members identify in this, self-identify in this way. So to me, it's, and I wish my husband Larry was here, he'd answer this better, but it is about knowing that we've got to go deep and do our deep work to be able to bring our peace and our joy and our calm into the world of suffering. And for me in particular, my work, my husband is African American. And so I like to tell people I've only been close to knowing about race for 20 years. And so I still have to work really hard with energies of anger that come up in me in my work in social justice. And I watch Larry, who's had 70 years of experience in being Black and 70 years of strong practice, how he can easily enter into situations where I have to go back on my cushion. And so it's knowing yourself and making a deep commitment to wake up and wake down. And the waking down is the connection with our bodies and our embodiment of social justice. The wake down is our connection with our ancestors and really feeling that in our ancestor lineage. And as Rachel mentioned earlier, our spiritual ancestors, so that we are fully supported, so that we can bring our stability and freedom and grace into the world of suffering and into these areas where there's so much pain. Right now, I'm practicing mightily with the implications with the virus, with race, and the statistics that show that 40% of the folks right now are African American, Indigenous, Brown. And once again, we see this inequity, and it's connected to all kinds of things. Healthcare, who has access to healthcare, neighborhoods, the environments. But yes, I'm practicing with some of the racial aspects of this virus, and I'm practicing big. I got overwhelmed last Saturday and had to take a lazy day, like Brother Phap Luu suggested. I had to really just goof off and took a long mountain walk and got in touch with the suffragettes that are in my family. The women, women lineage is very proud of their social justice work. And what I heard from them over and over is patience. And patience is a practice of our heart. So patience is right here, that we can instill and water the seed of patience, but our practice has to go deep. The second part of your question on disassociation, I'm not sure if I got that accurately, and I don't know if we have time to go back to it. But I think what's important is that you keep awake to that, because if we're embodied in our practice, we won't disassociate. But if we don't take the time to come home to our body and our feet and our butt on the cushion and our butt on the chair, it's easy to go into a trance. And that isn't going to help you wake up and wake down. What's going to help you is to really get home to your body. And maybe your whole practice that day might be just coming home to your body. Maybe you don't get past that. Maybe you don't get nearly past just, okay, I'm having a hard time coming home to my body right now. So for you to know in yourself. And the fact that you're asking that question is a good question to know, oh, have I fallen into a trance? Am I taking off with my thoughts or my spirit? Can I bring it right back down? And one of the things that really helps me when I need to be brought back down is the statue of Michelangelo in the Vatican of Mary holding Jesus. It's a very beautiful statue, but I imagine myself being held by Mary. And Mary is heavy and connected to the earth. And so this is one of my tools for my social justice work. And I know you have your own tools, whether it's your grandmother, whether it's somebody else, whether it's Thich Nhat Hanh, who was one of my heroes of social justice. So I hope that was helpful. Keep up the work, keep up the good fight. And the expression we use from the civil rights days is to do good trouble. Keep doing good trouble in the world.
Thank you, Ayoka. Thank you, Peggy. I think there was a question about the text you mentioned and how people can find it. Did you mention a book or a text or something like that? I think we have some questions on that.
I did. I can get that to you later if there's going to be any follow-up communication.
Okay, that would be great. So we'll get that to everyone.
I've got two texts. Anti-oppression methodology.
Thank you. Let us hear Sound of the Bell. So our next question is Lynn's. Lynn's, is that correct? Hi, Lynn's. Thank you for joining.
Dear Thai, dear Sangha, dear large community, I am enjoying my practice. I am an aspirant in the Plum Village tradition, looking to be an ordained member. My question is a great follow-up question. Thai encourages us to be engaged Buddhists. I'm wondering what injustice or suffering in the world are you in particular, and I think this question is going to Brother Phap Luu, as a Dharma teacher and a practitioner, most engaged with. I'm interested in learning actions and applied practices that I can use as an engaged Buddhist toward finding equanimity and relieving the suffering in the world.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn, for your question. So over the past few years, I've worked a lot with children here in Plum Village, and also with our movement Wake Up Schools and teachers. So looking into how, basically my own experience growing up, going through the public school system and not really learning how to take care of my emotions, or just following my breathing, inspired me to, when our teacher started speaking about bringing the practice into schools, I felt very moved, because I felt so grateful for everything I learned in my education, but I felt like this part was, just dealing with my anger was something I didn't learn in 17 years in public schools. And so that's the area where I've done the most work lately, and now I'm moving also into doing work of bringing people into nature. So people of all different. My aspiration is to bring, especially kids in inner city schools, into the into the woods, but we're not realized yet. We're still working on just doing hiking retreats. So one thing that's key for me is that I nourish my freedom and joy in the act of serving. So when Thai talked about, actually in Vietnamese, engaged Buddhism, Thai it's called Di Vào Đạo Phật, Đi Vào Cuộc Đời. It means the Buddhism coming into the world. And at its root, it's actually just applying the practice into our daily life. So it means coming back to our breathing. So that is engaged Buddhism, because a lot of Buddhism was caught just in philosophical study and theories, and people identified as a Buddhist, but they're actually practicing what the Buddha was teaching. And so Thai, first and foremost, as an engaged practitioner, it means that we're actually doing the practice. We're breathing mindfully. We're getting the joy from our breath, from our being aware of our body, being aware of our feelings. And also it means embracing difficult emotions. One of the teachings that Thai always reminded us of is how to cultivate right view. Because views tend to create a lot of our suffering. So we can be aware of situations of injustice, of pain, of suffering that that others are experiencing. But it turns out that we can actually be best suited to help them if we don't get caught in a view about it, but actually just viscerally connect, be able to cultivate compassion. Compassion being not just empathy, but the capacity to bring relief to the situation without getting caught in a view. That is it's a very deep practice. And so I use my breath a lot when I notice that I'm getting caught in one view about a situation, whether it's about, like I said, about bringing the teaching of embracing emotions into schools. I can get really dogmatic about that too, and create a form that I just want to impose on teachers and on students. I need to breathe and be with every situation and look and adapt and see the impermanence of every situation. There's no one political system that's going to solve every problem, right? And so to get dogmatic, whether in the political realm and the spiritual realm, is always going to create suffering. So right view is actually when we let go of our views, when we become free of any attachment to a dogma. And that's where I feel I can really get down to doing like the deep social justice work, because it has to do with my own perceptions and how they are affecting the world outside of me and within me. So we have thinking, we have speech, we have our bodily actions. There's three kinds of action. So karma just means action. And through these three, we are affecting the world. We are affecting the world, including within ourselves and outside of us. And our ancestors are coming in there. They're already there, influencing all those actions, as well as the teachers around us, our community. And so mindfulness helps us to see how all those factors are playing out in the present moment so that we can adjust. We can learn how to cause less harm in our own way of thinking, in our own way of speaking, without being caught in a view, not getting caught into, this is unfair. I need to act. And sometimes in the past I've done that. I've done actions. I was an activist before I became a monk, and to be honest, it was, I learn now that we're all human, and that even those who are causing suffering, they can change. But if we just confront them with our anger and our dogma, it's very difficult. We just come into a conflict. And I saw that happening a lot. I remember very clearly when I saw some guys I knew fighting with undercover policemen in a demonstration in Paris, and I, they were pinning the police guy down, and I thought, what is this? Is this solving some situation of suffering? And that's because of our roles, and sometimes that we can get trapped in. And so non-self helps us to, the insight of non-self helps us to become free from those kind of views, and then act from a place of compassion. And there's no passivity. Actually, everything is action. Our thinking is action. Our speech is action. Our actions are actions. So passivity is just an idea. Everything we think is also already affecting the world. So that is engaged Buddhism, seeing what's going on in our mind, in our body, in the world, in the present moment, and learning how to dance with it in a way that it causes less harm for ourselves and others. Thank you for your beautiful question.
Thank you. I hear our next question, Raj Paul. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I apologize. Would you like to ask your question? Thank you for joining us today.
I have just started practicing mindfulness and trying to be with my breath during this lockdown, trying to be mindful. There are a lot of thoughts that are flowing through the day, and especially if I access, like somebody asked, social media. All now I've been observing in the last 3-4 days. When I sleep, there are a lot of thoughts and a lot of dreams and a lot of mind patterns which come up, and it takes considerable amount of time in the morning to get back to my breath or my mindfulness again. So if you can let me know any practice or any way I can just be more mindful.
Thank you for your question, but I cannot hear well. Maybe, dear Denise, would you please repeat that so I can hear better? Because I learned from the last question that was given to me. I could not hear the first part. So please, Denise, please help.
Yes. Yes, our dear friend Rajpal has, like many of us, has been having problems sleeping. There's a lot of thoughts that enter his mind that it makes it difficult to sleep. And then when he wakes up in the morning, finds it hard to come back to his breath and to try to be mindful to start his day or to go about his day. And he wanted to know how to deal with all that. Is that correct, Rajpal?
Nó có sẵn gạo.
Yes.
The other question is, do you practice with Sangha?
No, I have just started my mindful practice during the lockdown period.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, dear friend. Thank you, dear Denise. I'm sitting here with sadness in my heart that my Dharma brother just told me that the last question that was given to me, I only heard the later part of it as Denise read the question for me, and I did not see the question on the screen. So if you please, could you please wait, and I will address your question at this time, dear friend. But I want to go back to the question that was given to me before this one. because for me, that's a very important question, that our dear friend who asked that question had trouble breathing and has been living in his home for a month. And so now I'm addressing that question, what's in my heart right now, in light of that question. I remember that the Buddha said, Thầy told us the Buddha story, that when our body is struck with an arrow on the spot where there is pain, then that spot becomes much more painful. I am saying this story, sharing this story, because within my blood family, we are all so overwhelmed with fear, the fear of catching the virus, of getting sick, and of living, dying in isolation. And so in this story, the Buddha reminds us that our fear can make our suffering, our pain, physical, emotional, 100 times worse. And so the Buddha's teaching is that it's important for us to be able to recognize the fear, the pain, and to say hello to it, and to say to ourselves that we're not sure of what is going on. So we say yes to the fear, to the pain, and try to relax our body as we lie down on the floor, on the earth, and let the breath come through, even in the time that it's difficult to breathe. And of course, we need to let the doctors, the people who know about this virus and this illness, to give us guidance and to offer us support. That, of course, we need that. But for us, we can recognize the state of our bodies in and the state of mind we're in, and we can breathe with that. Even when breathing is not easy, but how everything is impermanent, we breathe in. Sometimes I breathe in, my breath only goes up to my chest. And then I breathe out. I let go of my fear and the shortness of breath that I have. And then I breathe in again. And as I continue to breathe and relax and trust that I am already in the good hand of the professionals who guide me and support me in this time, then as I continue to just surrender myself to the earth and let life, let the earth breathe through me, then gradually my breath becomes deeper. And when I try to do that as often as I can throughout the day, then my breath naturally becomes deeper and calmer. And when my breath is deeper and gentler, I feel more calm, more relaxed. And the fear in me has softened. And I just wanted to share that, because our fear, the virus, the coronavirus is a pandemic, but our fear is also a pandemic. So what this practice and the community of friends that support us can help us to embrace, to cradle that fear, so that the professionals, the doctors, the nurses, the caregivers can help us effectively during this time. Thank you, and my deep apologies for not for missing the first part of that question, which was very important. About this question, the second question that was just asked now from our friend, we always have a lot of thoughts in our mind. We all have that. It's like a television set that gets hot to the point that we cannot sleep. We cannot turn the television off. And the practice of mindful breathing, mindful walking can help with that, but not all the times. Sometimes it's overwhelming and we get so scared because we can't control our thoughts. And when we have a practice and it seems the practice does not help in the time that we need it the most, my experience is that friends on the path, if I can call my friend in the Sangha, if I can text them, if I can talk to them, then that I can feel I can breathe again. So I feel like in that moment, my head is full of thoughts. And what happens to my body is like frozen because I'm so afraid. I feel so helpless. And then the door of my heart begins to close up. And that's why my experience with that is when thoughts come up and it's getting worse and I cannot benefit from the practice that I used to, then I would reach out for a friend on the path, or 2 friends or 3 friends, and share with them what's inside of me. And once I can make that move, then my feelings, what's in my heart begins to flow out, and I start feeling relaxed, and my mind becomes calmer before I can come back to my breath. So making use of the breath of your Sangha, the breath of your dear friends who know the practice, their peace, their joy, their calm is really crucial in this difficult moment. Thank you.
Dear friends, our time is almost up, but we wanted to kind of share with you how to stay connected with us and our teachers. Many of you asked how you can find a Sangha and everything, but yeah, to stay connected, visit the foundation website at tnhf.org. From there, you can sign up to receive a regular monthly newsletter that will have practice resources, teachings. On the website too, under community, you'll be able to find a local Sangha, especially during this time, having people to support your mindfulness practice will be really helpful. We also wanted to let you know that our publishing house, Parallax, is offering a special discount, 40% off books of the Summit authors and key practice books by Tay. So if you go to parallax.org/footsteps and then enter in the code footsteps to get the 40% off discount. So you'll be able to find some help that way through the books. If you want to continue to connect with our Dharma teacher, Anh-Huong Nguyen, you can visit mpcf.org, the Mindfulness Practice Center of Fairfax. That is her website. And if you want to keep connecting with our Dharma teacher, Peggy, you can go to her website, hers and Larry's, thelotusinstitute.org, that way as well. Like some few thoughts, like everyone in the world, our dear monks and nuns have also been affected by the coronavirus outbreak. They've had to close all 10 monasteries worldwide to prevent the spread of the virus. So that means their way of earning a living, of putting food on the table, which is through having retreats at the monasteries, is unfortunately not an option now. They love to welcome people year round, and unfortunately that can't happen. Yet they've been working diligently to bring as much of the teachings and practices online for us, being available for these live Q&As and doing the live streams. So our monastics have always really been there for us. And I really do know so many people are in financial difficulty right now and suffering deeply. But if you do have the ability to help, if you consider donating to sorry, I was trying to move my slide. You consider donating right now. Your gift at any level is deeply appreciated to help our monks and nuns. And thank you all so much for, and you can donate at tnhf.org. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for being such a source of inspiration with your mindfulness practice, your stability, your peace, which is so needed right now. We know the way out is in, and we know the way forward is together, that we can only beat this virus if we do it together. So thank you for being with us today, and we will have another Q&A tomorrow and Saturday with some other Dharma teachers as well. But thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll end with 3 sounds of the bell. I mean, 1 sound of the bell. Bye. Bye, everyone.